I always, hope to remember to do is check sound, but here we go. We are live, Q&A with Jeff Olson. We're going to be talking about HUD homes and what they are in the market and some of those different things. So first and foremost, Jeff Olson of RE/MAX Preferred here. We are in the state of Wisconsin, but we will be talking about something that does correlate in every state. It's just every state has a different reps and different people, but certainly any questions that you might have during our presentation, feel free to comment below. We'll answer them live if they're on here. Comment later. We'll get back to you. Of course, if you go in the description, there is a description as well with Jeff's phone number, and you can reach out that way too if you'd just like to pick up the phone and call and ask some questions. So we got live Q&A here with Jeff Olson. First and foremost, Jeff, first question, I'll just rattle them off because we do this every month now. What is a HUD property?
So HUD property is basically an FHA mortgage that was foreclosed on. So somebody didn't make their payments, unfortunately, and on an FHA mortgage, and then HUD has taken ownership of the property, and now the property is being resold. So it's a lot of people think of it as being basically a bank-owned property, but it is a HUD-owned property technically.
Right. So it's essentially, if layman's terms a little bit, but if there was a bank-owned foreclosure, if the bank takes it back and owns it, in this particular case, the loan that was made was a federal loan of some sort, so it's tied to the federal government.
FHA.
And now it's going back to the federal government, so they're the ones that own it.
Yeah, so HUD gets the property, they set it up, they make sure it's vacant, they trash the property out, they do anything that they really need to outside of repairs. Now, they do some repairs if it's, like a railing that's loose or something where someone can injure themselves. So it's
I know one of the very first questions people most ask is, where do they find these things anyway? Is there a website or?
Well, HUDHomestore.com is the one you want to look at. So I would go to HUDHomestore.com. They are all put on the MLS as well, so you can search on the MLS. But if you want to see only HUD properties, it's HUDHomestore.com. Now, some people will there's other websites that are pay websites like HUDHomeListings.com or something.
Got to be careful, right? They're just trying to resell information.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're trying to get people to sign up, and they're not remotely, because I get calls all the time, not all the time, but occasionally where people will say, hey, I'm on this HUD Home Listings website. No. HUDHomestore.com. That's the one, because it can be confusing. So
and that's what everybody's always trying to collect people's information and then sell it to other people and do whatever. So good call. Next question for you, I'll rattle off at you. Can I buy a HUD property the first day it's listed and beat out other buyers, or what's the timing there?
So you can put your bid in the first day it's listed, but these are offered to owner occupants first for the initial 10 days. And then, so they sit there for 10 days so people get a chance to see it, get a chance to put their bids in. And then on the 11th day, they open up the bids. And then if there is a winning bid, then they're notified on that 11th day. So they'll get a notification by email. It says, hey, congratulations. Here's your notification of bid acceptance. Here are the next steps, blah, blah, blah. So that's typically how that works. Now, if there's not a bid in the system that's high enough, let's say it's listed at 90,000, the highest bid is 60, then obviously nobody's going to get it. It's just going to roll into single day bid periods after that initial bid period. Then each night it will be checked again. So it's just like a single day bid period. Now they do have the exception to that is when it goes over the weekend, then they'll count that as kind of basically one day and then open bids on Monday. So pretty straightforward, pretty simple, pretty easy process. Yep.
Good answer. Next question for you. Does the bid have to be full price, or is the price negotiable?
So the bid does not have to be full price, but obviously depending on your competition, it's like anything else. Whoever's the highest bid is going to get it. You can certainly negotiate. You can come in lower and see what happens. But obviously, the lower you are, the lower your chance of getting it, like anything else.
And in this market, it's even more of a less chance than it's been in the past, obviously. So, yeah.
Well, especially if it's in the initial 10-day period, because obviously, like anything, there's not going to be a whole lot of negotiation that's going to go on. But you can, you can put in a bid and see what happens. It's not that difficult. And it's, if nothing else, it's good practice.
Well,
so
and to the flip side of that, because you segued me, my next question which is, can I bid over the list price?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
You can bid as high as you want. I had one time off of, actually, Bridge Road, in fact, I think it was off of Monona, or over in Monona area there.
Sure.
And it went for $90,000 over the list price. And that wasn't even during this period. That was years ago.
Wow. Interesting.
So sometimes they can go significantly higher than list price. Now, obviously, the thing to make sure of, that was a cash offer. You want to make sure that you have, because if you bid over the list price and let's say it doesn't appraise out, then you run into an issue. So where you may have to come up with money to bring to the table. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So from that standpoint, depending on, and I think you just maybe alluded to it, will that affect FHA financing? Obviously, I mean, like if the appraisal's less, they're not down to do this again on the same property.
Yeah. Well, what'll happen with FHA is if you're bidding over the list price, you just have to make sure that you have funds set aside. Let's say you're bidding over, because that FHA appraisal has already been done on the property, and that's how they determine the value.
Okay.
And so if you come in 10,000 over the list price or over the FHA appraised value, then you're going to have to come up with that money out of your pocket to cover that difference.
Got it.
So you can do it, but yeah, it's just want to make sure that you've got that money set aside, that extra money. But sometimes it's worth it if you can. I mean, some of these properties are really good deals. So
that being said, then not with FHA financing, because that's essentially where it's coming from. But can you get regular? I'm assuming you can get regular conventional financing.
Yeah, you can get conventional financing. What I do always warn agents, though, is to make sure that the property, especially the water, you want to make sure the water, there's not any sort of leaks in the plumbing system. Which HUD on every property, they complete a PCR, property condition report, and they pressure test the system to make sure that it holds pressure. If it doesn't, then they note that, and then they will not approve turning the utilities on, which means, of course, that the buyer has to be able to get financing without any running water, which is tricky, as everybody knows. So
now we're talking maybe less on the conventional side and looking more at a construction loan or a rehab loan or something.
Or HELOC, or something to that effect. Now, I have had people where they've gotten financing, but I mean, really, what typically happens is I tell the agent, call the lender and ask them if they can finance it if they have something that would work. And then usually I get the call back and the lender had said, no, we got to have all utilities on for the appraiser and for underwriting. And then so you don't want to get that far and then have to cancel your bid, or cancel your offer at that point, depending on how far along it is. Sometimes we figure it out before the paperwork's even been filled out. And other times, it can be well into the transaction, because a lot of times people will kind of assume that somehow it'll work itself out, or they get bad information where someone will tell them, they have to have it, they have to have the water on, and they have to they have to fix something. I've heard people tell me that they think that everything has to be repaired before the property can be sold. So there's a lot of misinformation going on out there.
Well, and I think from that standpoint, that's why we're here. We're doing some Q&A. Like if you're not sure on these foreclosures, and I think it's worth stating too, with the market we're in, the forbearance and some of the things that we've been in because of COVID are coming to an end, from what I understand as well. So they're calling for several more of these properties to be coming to market by the end of this year, for that very reason. There's obviously been people like Jeff Bezos who have absolutely just loved COVID. and what it's done for them. But there's been people that have been on the misfortune side of COVID and what it's done to the economy or their businesses or whatever, or their job. And so the end of the year, they're saying there's going to be some more of these. That being said, agents who, by the way, are going to represent you in a HUD. They can contact you and you as an agent, but this isn't something, just to make clear to everybody who might be watching this. You use an agent to approach a HUD property. You don't directly deal with the federal government. The federal government's using people like Jeff here, obviously, to represent these properties and get these things done. So just in that, you have to co-broke and work with a lot of other brokers that would hopefully be watching this and educating themselves. My next question for you then is, does HUD pay a 3% commission out to buyers agents out there that are representing buyers in the market?
Yeah, it does. So what they'll do is they'll have when you place your bid, you go into the system, you log in, the 3% will autofill, basically. Okay. So I always do warn agents that that's something that's adjustable. So if they're for some reason messing around on the bid sheet and they accidentally delete that or change it to 1% or something, well, then they just lost part of their commission. So, but the good news is they don't have to fill it in. It does autofill the 3%, right when you go in there. So that's kind of nice. So
the typical average for somebody to be representing somebody from across the country. So that's good to know. Does not that this has anything to do with that, and I think you already kind of hit. I'm going to throw it up here really quick, but who determines list price was one of the questions, and I know you kind of already hit on that. It's the appraisal, and FHA does an appraisal ahead of the listing, right? So
you get exactly right. So so they have an independent appraiser go out, and he does an FHA appraisal on it, and then that's the price. It's kind of interesting because some different companies that I've worked with and so forth will have a couple different opinions, and then they kind of come up with it on their own based on those several opinions. Where HUD, it's just, it's what it appraises out at. So they have us do a broker price opinion as well, but that's just used later for reductions. It's not used to determine the value.
A little bit of a check and balance, but not what they initially established the price on. Got it. Yeah. Next question for you. Can I flip a HUD property? Can I buy it and turn right back around, fix it up, and sell it?
So if you buy it as an owner-occupant in that initial owner-occupant period,
which is what? 15
days. Yep. So, and if you go online, if you go to HUD Home Store, it'll tell you who's eligible to bid, and it makes that clear that hey, we can't have they want to make it available to people who are going to purchase it and live in it. I
think you and I could both agree right now with what's going on in this market with people investing and buying up housing and people being at a loss for housing. I mean, wouldn't it be almost nice if the some of our state governments and some of our areas would step in and say, hey, some of these regular home listings, the first 15 days are going to be open to people that are going to own or occupy. And I know that restricts a seller from being able to do what they want to do, which is why it's not there. But man, I mean, it's something to be said. I was watching an interview with Spencer Ratcliffe. He used to be the owner of Zillow, or one of the CEOs of Zillow or whatever, and they now run a company called OfferPad. Well, they have billionaires who have put their money together that are buying up properties, fixing them, and 6 weeks later putting them back on the market for $100,000 more because they're all fixed. Well, they claim that that's an efficient way to help the housing inventory, but I argue it's taking away that opportunity for someone who is going to own or occupy their first home, and maybe it's not that nice place. Maybe it's not fully remodeled. Maybe it's not new construction. I mean, how did your first house isn't supposed to be necessarily the nicest thing in the world, and you can build that equity over time. So I think it's great that HUD does that and gives owner occupied that first opportunity. But then after 15 days, I hear you loud and clear, then it can open up to somebody who might want to flip the property or whatever.
And you can technically, if you purchase it during that 15 days, I wouldn't call it flipping it, but you can sell it after a year. So you have to owner occupy it for 1 year. So you can, but technically, like I said, if somebody's flipping a property, I always think
they don't typically want to hold something for a whole, live in it.
Yeah, who wants to hold it for a year? Yeah. So So yeah, so you can flip it, but you just have to make sure that you're in the investor period when you do that. Some of them make it to that. I've certainly had plenty of people who have flipped HUD properties over the years and have done really well with it. The hotter market now, and there's obviously less available. There's hardly anything available right now for HUD. I think that's going to change, of course. But right now it's pretty slim pickings for HUD properties. So
yeah, well, and I know, like I said too, we'll see what happens or what comes towards the end of the year. I think it's important that everybody that might be watching this out there now or later, we're not hoping and wishing that people get foreclosed on. This is part of our job and part of what we do. It certainly stinks when somebody is in that situation, but it is what it is. Well, that being said, next question for you. That is kind of a worry about people buying foreclosed homes. Do we need to worry about evicting the people that were in that home or whatever, or how's that handled?
Well, that is really nice with HUD because when that property is assigned to us, it's already vacant, it's already trashed out, it's pretty much ready to go. I could put my sign up in the yard the first day. I mean, it's really, now occasionally there'll be some little touch-up items that the preservation company needs to come out and do, like there's some old paint in the basement that didn't get taken out, or there's some cinder blocks in the backyard or something goofy.
Some sort of safety concern that needs to be.
Yeah, so there's some little cleanup item. But yeah, they're vacant. They're vacant. Now, if somebody's in it, then that's a problem, obviously. Then that just means somebody broke into the property. But no, and occasionally I do sell properties that are not set up that way, where I sold one recently in fact, in Maple Bluff, where we marketed it and got it under contract while people were still living in it. So, and they were out before closing, but occasionally it does happen with other properties, not with HUD properties though. They're ready to go for you. So.
Okay. Good deal. I guess let's see here. We're kind of coming up on time, but let me see. I've got one more question for you.
Sure.
Two actually, but can all agents bid on HUD properties? Is that something any agent can do?
Any agents whose broker has a NAID number. So if you've got a NAID number, you've set yourself up with HUD so you can bid on properties. Your broker has a NAID number. So each agent doesn't individually need to have a NAID number, just the broker. When I bid on properties, I use RE/MAX's NAID number. Okay.
So that leads me into my my final question before we wrap things up. What does NAID stand for?
So NAID is the name and address, basically name and address verification. So it's NAID. I'm not sure really what the D is for, but yeah, it's
ID must
name
be
and address verification,
name and address identifier.
Yeah, exactly. So yep. So, but people a lot of times when I say NAID, if somebody they'll say, what'd you say? They say, NAID number. You need NAID number. So name and address identification, actually, I think is the official.
That's something so if you're an agent watching this and you're like, I don't know anything about a NAID number, and you are the broker for your company, then you need to, obviously you contact Jeff. He'll help you out, but like your brokerage needs to contact your you could go to HUD Home Store, I know, as a broker as well. You need to get your brokerage registered with HUD and everything else, and then they'll assign an NAID number for you. And if you don't know what we're talking about and you're an agent, go talk to your broker. Your broker probably has one. If they don't have one, reach out to us. We can point you in the right direction.
Almost all the larger companies typically have one because it's come up. They have a lot of agents and somebody's brought it up and they've went and gotten one. Where I run into it more tends to be the smaller mom and pop kind of, shops that maybe, somebody, a little office out of Montello or something. A lot of times they're not going to have a NAID number. And we can still help people out with that too. We can, if we need to, we can place the bid
write it for them and help refer it back to them, something like that.
Yep. Some sort of referral or some sort of, we want people to be able to, if the buyer wants to buy the property, we want them to be able to. So, yeah. So
at
we'll
the
help
end
out.
of the day, I think it's important. I've got the website down below here. Jeff, thanks for taking the time every month to do this. I think it's a great service and it's informative. And if you're an agent out there watching this, whether you're watching it now live or you're watching it later down the road, again, contact information in the comments. Certainly you can comment here wherever you're watching this and we'll respond to you one way or another. Jeff, thanks for coming on again, and we'll see you again next month, right? So,
all right, sounds good.
all right,
Okay.
take care. Have a good rest of your day.